by Big Rapids Pennzoil and Auto Repair, Seth Winger and the Winger Insurance Agency, 911 Restoration, Gilbert's Carpets Plus Color Tile, and Benton Baker of Big Rapids.
Well, here we are.
Morning, Bobby. How are you?
Good. How's everything?
Well, not bad. I see Super Bowl's over.
Yeah.
And we're
like
moving
anybody
right
care
along.
around here.
Yeah. We lost a very special person this week. Liz Stringer, Beth Kramer's mother. Beth and Steve own the Big Rapids Farm and Garden. Our prayers and thoughts are out to them. Liz was a great lady. Anybody that ever met her loved her, and her husband, Jerry, he was a great guy here in Big Rapids, worked for Michigan for a lot of years, supervisor over there. But as so many other people in this town have came and gone, there too that were really appreciated. Anyway, we got a great guy in the studio this morning. I've known him for a long, long time, and I think I've talked about his dad, Vaughn. He impressed me when I was a younger man working for Gordy Gilbert back in the day, and we go to his farm there, Bob, and I got Bob Cook with me, better known as Toad, right, Bob?
Yeah.
How did you come up with Toad?
Oh, that was my very first rodeo. 3 of my old pals asked me to be a clown, and I'd never been a clown before. Been around rodeo, but not clown. And they said, would you play the part of a clown? And I said, sure. And we said, we can't call you Bob Cook from Big Rapids, so we'll call you Toad from Texas. And it stuck.
Yeah, that's a good introduction, but I should have really gave you a better one than that, I guess, as far as respect to you, Bob. For you folks that don't know, but we got a special guy in here today. He's not a youngster anymore, but he still looks great, and you've been through a lot, Bob. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about when you were little. Your dad brought you up, your mother out there in Woodville area, right?
Yeah.
Was that on 6 Mile?
4.
4 Mile? Yeah, you lived on 4 Mile. How many brothers and sisters?
There's 11 total stepchildren, half brothers and sisters, but the original family, there was only 3 of us brothers.
Now, do you mind if I ask you how old you are now?
82.
82 years old. So you've seen a lot, and we're going to go from there. So you were born into horses, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Your dad, if I remember right, he had little Shetland ponies or little ponies, whatever, pulling ponies.
He had every kind of horse. My grandfather, Roy Cook, that's where I was born on 4 Mile Road with his farm. And he used to get Western horses by the train loads, and they'd come here to the stockyards, and they'd take them back to his ranch here and farm. And he had a lot of hired men, and they'd break them horses out and sell them for labor horses, for farm horses to the neighborhoods. So that's how he got involved. That's how my dad got involved.
So they got wild horses from out west.
Yeah.
You remember all that?
No, I don't remember them.
But you got stories that they told you.
Oh, yeah. I lived the life of it, yeah.
Do you remember who owned the stockyards here in town then? Did you ever say?
No, I don't.
Do you remember when Carl Schubert came into town?
Oh, sure.
Okay, what year would that have been? Do you remember just about?
No. We were more White Cloud people. I went to school in White Cloud.
Yeah.
But we're in between. But we come to Big Rapids occasionally.
Yeah. So you knew your grandpa pretty good?
No, I only knew him. No, I was 6 years old when he passed away.
Oh, okay. How old was he then?
60.
Okay, so then your dad took over the helm of doing all them breaking?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Him and us 3 boys.
Okay, you and who's your brothers that were?
Roland, my oldest brother, he was killed when he was 32, and my brother David, and he died when he was 58.
Oh,
so
wow.
They died young.
So back to the railroad, though, you heard stories that they, and not there's true stories, obviously, but they used to, how many would they break at a time? Do you remember them?
Well, they'd break them in teams, but they'd start them single, and then my dad had to tell me these stories because I can't.
Right.
I was too young, but
right.
They would herd them from the stockyards across the river out to the farm, and they had a big stump fence corral, and they'd put them in there and then single them out and get them to where they could handle them a little bit. And then he had 2 big oak trees that he tied them and snubbed them up to and harnessed them, and he had a big rolling packer, and he had it pointed out to the road and across the field. There was a big open field there. and he'd take a popple pole with a little brush on the end of it, and he didn't have a pair of lines, so he had them in his hand, but he couldn't use them. And he'd turn them horses loose, and they'd just run. And when he wanted to turn them, he'd take that pole and stick out by their head and shake it, and then they'll shy off to the left or the right, and they'd go around that field until they got them wore out, and then they start driving them.
So when you say driving, what did they use the horses for then? Plowing and?
Oh, it's all farm work.
Yeah.
All farm work.
Did they ride them much?
No. My dad did, and
Yeah.
he got into saddle horses. He jockeyed saddle horses a lot too. So he'd go out in the country and buy sour horses that people couldn't handle no more, and bring them back, and us boys would ride them out, and then he'd put them back on the market.
What do you think? You know, I mean, I've been a horseman for a lot of years, and I'm not even average probably. And you look back and you see these good old horsemen. Are they still there out there in the world today, you think, like they were, like your dad there and you?
Yeah, there is, and you get in the right places. You know, I spent 30 years in the rodeo business, so I run into a lot of cowboys.
Yeah.
And I found a lot of good ones, and then I found some that's just mediocre.
Yeah. But I mean, wonder, because your dad had quite a reputation of breaking horses, any size horse.
Oh, yeah.
What did was that a gift? Do you think that is a gift, Bob?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I do too.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody.
But he had a good teacher, though. His dad was a good teacher.
Yeah.
He took some challenges on, but.
Back then, you learned from your dad, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, so absolutely.
You learned everything from your dad, didn't you?
Everything.
Yeah, and your brother, he's a pretty good horseman, that one from Ravenna area.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Rollin and David, both.
They're both real good horsemen. I know people talk. They still doing it?
No, they passed away.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you have one there I met at Donnie Kaiser's funeral.
Oh, that's Clinton.
Yeah.
That's a half-brother.
He's a pretty good horseman, too, eh?
His other brother is Nathan. He is a real good teamster.
Yeah.
He makes a living doing it, basically.
Right. Still, where does he live then?
Rothbury.
Okay, yeah, Rothbury. So you got in a rodeo. What started you in that, and how old were you then?
I was raised in it.
Okay, so your dad would go where were they at back then? Like Big Rapids have one?
Oh, yeah. They had horse shows and rodeos everywhere here in Michigan, fairgrounds. And they used to have a nice one here in Big Rapids.
Yeah. So who put those on?
Fair boards.
Okay, so then they'd hire like your dad to come in with horses, or?
No, they'd sanction a rodeo, and then rodeo at that time wasn't organized like it is today.
Okay.
And you could just be an amateur and go and pay your fees and ride a horse out or a bull out or rope, whatever you wanted to.
So now you rode bulls or horses?
No, neither. Oh, I rode horses, but I
Okay.
didn't ride bucking horses.
Right. Smart.
Yeah. I don't know if I was or
That
not.
was tough, wasn't it?
Yeah. Because I had to put grease paint on and I had to stand in front of them.
Yeah, what made you become a clown? I mean, what possessed you to do that?
Well, I was always fascinated by them because we was always at the rodeo, and they were pretty athletic, and I always enjoyed their bravery. But,
well, I understand that. I can't remember who it was, so I won't say a name, but in the gas station, I was telling them about having you on, and they said, oh, he was quick. And this guy used to watch you at the rodeos, he said, and he asked you one day, how athletic you got to be a clown. And you said, well, I'll show you. And you did a backflip. Do you remember that?
Oh.
He said you did a backflip right in the old air. And he said he did her too. But that can be dangerous, hey? The clown, probably the worst.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty dangerous.
That's probably the most dangerous one of them all, because you got to get that bowler away from that rider, right? As soon as that rider falls?
Yeah, well, the riders only got to ride one. And we got to fight everyone.
Everyone. So how many hours?
Well, we did 30 in a day.
Wow.
Fought 30 bulls in a day. Like in Calgary, they have 22 shoots there. They run one right out one after another.
So you went to Calgary in Canada?
Several times.
I'm thinking you see the running of the bulls in Italy there, or in Spain rather, in Pamplona. And a rodeo clown has to do that every day. That's their living, basically. So that's not for the faint of heart.
How far out west had you gone then? Like Calgary, I know is out west, north, but like Montana, you go out there to all of them rodeos?
I fought bulls in all the bull rings of Mexico.
Really?
almost every state in the Union, and all the Providence in Canada is like 2, except 2.
So did you have an agent then, or how?
No, free agent. I was myself.
They just hired you. They knew
Yeah.
Bob Cook right in White Cloud, Michigan.
Yeah, that's basically it. You have to belong to an association once you get into the pros, and it's pretty tough to get in there, especially as a bullfighter or a clown.
So just recently, you were voted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I mean, I belong to the Standardbred Association, and being in the Hall of Fame there, you got a percentage is pretty small that gets in the Hall of Fame. And that must have just been something chilled to your heart. You know, so many times people don't get that award until they're after, oh, the legend's dead, and
Yeah.
now he's a living legend, deader than heck, and gets the award.
Yeah.
You received it and took your whole family. Where was that, Oklahoma?
Texas, Fort Worth, Texas.
So that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've earned 9 national finals, which
Wow.
is the top clown of the year. So,
Wow. And that's something.
yeah,
I mean, you think about how many clowns is there out there?
lots of them.
Right. Yeah.
You tip a stone over out there, there's a bullfighter under it.
Now, how did so they vote on that? I'm sure.
Oh, it's to get into that class of it, you got to belong to the association. To get into the association as an amateur, you got to have 3 letters wrote by 3 world champions, bullfighters.
Wow.
And then you get those 3 letters, and then you got to have 3 letters from professional stock contractors who hire you, or you work for them. And then after you get those letters, then you got to go in front of a screening committee, and you got to fight bulls in front of a screening committee. And once you get your card, now you're eligible to go to all the pro rodeos. You bid them, you put your price on it. You can price yourself out, or you can, if you need work, you price yourself in. And when you go to the national finals, there's only 9 or 7 events in pro rodeo, and so they take the top 15 in every event to go to the national finals. That's what makes the national finals so good. They're all pros, and they make points by the dollars that they earn, and it's all kept track of. And so the top 15 money winners go to the finals in that event, whether it be bronc riding, bareback riding, bull riding, steer wrestling, whatever they do, they got to be in that top 15 line. And then for the clowns, we're a hired agent. We don't work off of winnings. We work off of salary. Then the top 15 bull riders vote for the clown that they want in there to protect them, because these guys are fighting they're fighting for that gold buckle. And I myself did 250 performances a year. You got to be in front of everybody to get the notice, and then if you got the ability to protect them good, you'll get their vote. So it's a tough game to play, and very few people ever get that far.
Right. Yeah. So how old were you when you went in the ring the first time? And did you have jitters, or were you pretty confident back then?
Oh no, I wasn't confident. No. My first rodeo was a kid's rodeo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then after I got going up in Reed City, there was a gentleman by the name of Garth Urbis who had an amateur string, and I went to work for him in the summer months. And after a while, I decided I wanted to learn how to fight bulls, so I went to bullfight school.
You guys, when on the farm there, breaking them colts, and horses that you came in there, you did a lot of that, back then?
Oh yeah.
So where did you go to, school?
White Cloud.
Okay.
I went to a country school first, and then when they integrated the schools.
Where was that country school at? I'm just thinking, because I know about New Costin 4 Mile you're on.
Yeah, well, it was on 1 mile, and I couldn't tell you the name of the road, just outside of White Cloud, about 3 miles.
So you had quite a jaunt to go to school then.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ride a horse or drive a car?
No. Then we had school buses.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make you ancient here, Bob. I don't mean to do that, but
Yeah.
you just got a lot of history out there in White Cloud. I mean, good buddy of yours just passed. We all loved him. Oh, Don Kaiser there.
Oh, he was my best buddy.
Yeah, he was. He thought the world of you, and he had a good relationship with us at Curries for a lot of years. And he'd always talk about you, how you were his best buddy, and how you were a heck of a horseman. Of course, he knew we were in the horses, but different kind. But, you look back at life, and if you tell these younger people, they don't get it, do they? Not the kind of life that we had or you had.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to replace my life. We was energetic. We living in the country like we did. There wasn't opportunities like if you lived in town, and so we made good with whatever we did. Yeah. And we worked in the woods. We farmed. We broke horses. Whatever there was to do, we did it. We had a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah. So you, your profession though was clowns, rodeos, but you had other businesses.
Yeah.
And you got a beautiful farm out there where you still live today, right?
Yeah.
I remember that day you gave me a ride around the country there and showed me them horses out in that field. Hell, I thought I was out west.
Yeah.
But you don't have them horses like that anymore, right?
No. I raise cattle. I started raising longhorn cattle because I was going to build a bed and breakfast for my daughter.
Oh.
And I got the cattle started, and then it just kept growing until I finally just had to start unloading them, and got a chance to raise pro rodeos 2-year-old colt bucking horses. And so they'd bring me semi-loads of those, and we'd put them out there, and we'd pasture them and keep doctoring them and whatever we had to do.
So, like when you were younger, you didn't go to college, did you?
Oh, no.
No. So you went to White Cloud, and when you got out of high school, what was your thought at that time? What was you going to do?
I'm writing.
Too busy?
I'm writing a book right now, and it's one of my subjects right now is I was 19 years old, and the Dutch elm disease went through and killed all the elm trees back in the 60s. And my dad had a big swamp of them, and he said, we need to get that wood out of there before it's junk. And so he hired a guy by the name of Don Youngs to come in there with a penny mill and put it in the swamp. And then we went down there and cut them old dead trees down and cut the logs out of them. We had to have horses and to skid them out with. We did everything with horses. And we'd skid them out and take a few of them over to the penny mill, and he would saw them into lumber, and then the rest of them we'd take out, load on the sleighs, and take 2 teams to pull them out. There was big logs out to the landing, and then a truck would come along and pick them up. And I did that since I graduated. Well, I grew up in it all my life, but after I graduated, that was my job. And it was a January day. It was cold. Oh, it was cold. And we brung the teams up for dinner and put them in the barn and fed them. And I got in the car and I went down to Muskegon and joined the cavalry.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, what's the cavalry? Tell everybody what the cavalry is.
Well, it's a branch of the army. They lead the army into combat. They're a special breed of cats.
So on horses?
No, they did away with them in 1945.
Okay.
But when I was going through part of my scout training, I was stationed in Camp Carson, Colorado, and they had one troop of cav there, and it was a parade, and they did funerals and parades, and I got to be in that for a couple of weeks, so I got to be mounted one time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a privilege.
So how many years were you in that, and where did you go with that?
Well, I trained for a whole year to be a scout.
Okay.
And then that was pretty tough, and that made me determined that I could do anything once I went through that stage. And then I sent me overseas on the Iron Curtain, and Vietnam was going on at the time, and I got out of that due to a really nice warrant officer. He was a pilot, and the cavalry was just starting to get helicopters in for Vietnam, and so the government gave the 2nd Cavalry, or the 12th Cavalry, 2 helicopters and 2 warrant officers to fly them. And that was going to be the recon people, because I was in recon. And so they set me in one of them helicopters, and we'd fly every day, and they practiced their maneuvers, flying at sagebrush level, probably go 60 miles an hour, and just follow the terrain and go over the knolls and knobs and jump over the fences. And it was really exciting. It was thrilling. And this warrant officer took a liking to me, and we'd talk on the headsets, and he said, "You need to get out of your MOS. MOS is your job." And I said, "No." I said, I love this. This flying is great." And he said, "No, you don't understand. They're going to kill you." And I mean, they talked really plain to me. And we flew every day, and every day he hounded me about changing my MOS. Well, I'd already went through all the schools and the training that, and the government's going to not turn that away, see. So he said, "Why don't you put in for a transfer and see if you can go to Alabama to Fort Rucker and get to be a crew chief in a helicopter?" And I said, "Yeah, that would be fun." So that's what I did. I went to the office and asked if I could put in for crew chief school, and I got it approved. And then as soon as I got it approved, the old man from the cavalry said, "Oh, we got you trained. Now you got to go to a hot spot." So they sent me overseas then. And so he's this warrant officer, I always figured he saved my life, him and God, because they couldn't train him fast enough when they got him in Vietnam.
So at first, where were you at when you were going through this training? Was that over in Saigon or? No. I did all my training stateside. Okay.
I went.
But when you said they were going to kill you, where would that have been?
Oh,
Korea?
Vietnam.
Vietnam. Okay.
Yeah, because the cavalry was getting mustered to go to Vietnam.
Okay.
And we didn't. EM people didn't know that, but the officers all knew that. They were programmed to do this and get everything set up and get everybody trained for the jungle. So I went through my jungle training and all of that, my mountain training, cold weather training. Every recon school there ever was, I went through it. But anyway, that, and when I come home, I had a lot of problems, and I was a nervous wreck all the time, and so when I got out, I had to have some excitement. So I bought a Harley-Davidson Sportster, and I tried to drive the wheels off of that, trying to, to pacify my adrenaline need. Mm-hmm. And that went right along pretty good. And I wasted a whole year when I got out, as they said that don't take your uniform, don't throw your uniforms away. We're going to call you back. And I know what that meant. So my brother Roland, he got drafted twice. And so it does happen. Mm-hmm. And he was just in transportation. He didn't have a critical MOS. I had a critical MOS. So anyway, through that, I became an adrenaline junkie. And I couldn't find anything to pacify me. And finally, I met my beautiful wife, and we got married. And that took me off the scroll for being on the call list. And from there, we just went on. And when rodeo come along, that was my appetite for my peace.
So, just for people to know, very traumatic, isn't it, in the service?
Oh, yeah.
I got lucky. In 72, Nixon came out and said no more draft. Otherwise, there was a bunch of us. We were enlisting in the Army.
Oh, yeah.
And we already had the papers ready to roll. But thank God we didn't have to go. And we lost a lot of buddies that
sure
went over there, and I'm sure you did too.
Oh, yeah.
But talk about pay. We got this immigration thing going on right now. They're getting free health care and getting whatever they want. And it's just time in our lives that we just can't believe what we're seeing. I know you can't because you've been through all that. But just tell people, do you remember what you used to get paid a week?
Oh.
Putting your life on the line for our country?
Well, growing up, when I got out of school, I worked in the woods. That was piecework. You got paid for what you did, okay? And it wasn't much. but we was at home, and we was adapted. We didn't have to have a brand new home or a bunch of cars. It was a good life. The pay in my rodeo days, I'm kind of ashamed to say this.
No.
But I used to stand in front of them bulls for $25 a day.
Yeah, Bob's over here going, whoa. How about
Adjusted for inflation, but still, that's that was pocket change.
Well, yeah. No, but Bob, you touched on God, and I love to hear you say that because, there is a God, and I've always admired you. Now, going back to Nam days, and what did the Army pay you guys back then?
It goes by your rank on your sleeve, okay, and how much time you got in the service. But when I first went in, I got a flying 10, what they call a flying 10. That's by your toothpaste and whatever with, because a lot of guys come in there destitute.
Right.
I'd heard E-Nun. That was another one, like instead of E9, E-Nun, which is like your starting wage.
Well, I was just curious what.
Yeah,
about.
I made $96 a month.
Wow. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
And fought for your country.
Yeah.
What? Now, we'll jump back and forth because that's what I'm good at doing.
We need to take a quick break. It's 9 o'clock.
Well, let's do it.
WBZX
My God,
Big
that
Rapids.
half hour went fast.
Really. So why don't we play the song that Bob wanted to hear?
All right, Bob, we're going to play a song.
Cowboy Pride. Is that a good one for you?
Go ahead.
Okay, we're going to do that, and we'll take a break. WBZX Big Rapids. It is Curries Corner here on Tuesday morning. 9 o'clock, B1039. Back with more Curries Corner.
Thanks for
See how
those
that's
sponsors, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, here we are with Bob Toad Cook here, and we already talked about how he got his name Toad Cook there in the arena with the rodeo there. But Bob, when you left old White Cloud, prior to leaving White Cloud for the service, did you get out much? Did you travel much around Michigan at all, or did you?
Yeah, my dad took us boys out west. He had a cattle truck, and we put a campus over the top of it. We made our first camper that way, and he took us boys out there. I remember that, Yellowstone and different places. So
oh, really?
We got around.
Would you have international, or do you remember what truck it was?
It was a Chevy.
Chevy?
Yeah.
So like a 1-ton?
No,
dually?
probably a 2-ton.
2-ton.
Yeah. It had the cattle racks on it,
Yeah.
and big ramp to go up the back end for the livestock.
All right, so when you went out there, you went to buy horses?
Oh, no, just a vacation.
Really? Good for him.
Yeah.
Wow, he made sure you guys saw the land then.
Oh,
huh?
yeah, he was my hero.
Well, talk about your dad a little bit then. He had humbling beginnings, eh?
Oh, yeah.
He was raised there at the place he raised you at?
Yeah, my dad did good with himself, too. I mean, he was raised by my grandfather right on his homestead there, and my grandfather broke them horses, and he had a lot of hired men, and my dad was the lonely boy there.
Okay.
And so we had to put up with them hired men bossing him around, and he learned how to stand up for himself after a while. And then we had a big open range area. They called it the Skims, and my granddad would run cattle over there, and my dad would go out there and keep them cornered, keep them in the area. Mm-hmm. And that's where he learned to rope, and he became an extremely good roper. And he tied hard and fast, they call it. And in Texas, there's a huge ranch down there, the King Ranch. They wrote a letter up here to my dad and asked him to come down there and work as a brush popper. They called them brush poppers. And that was roping in the woods.
Wow.
And he learned how to sidearm rope. It didn't swing it over his head. He couldn't because of the limbs in the brush.
Wow.
And he became very good at it. And that's what we used to do also as a sideline was catch wild cattle for people up here.
Wow.
Yeah. And my dad had us 3 boys, and we had good horses under us, and he had a good dog. And the people would get a cow out or a steer or whatever it was that gets out, or several of them too, and they chase them all summer, and they get wild like deer. And when winter comes, they got to get them caught because they'll starve. They can't pick. And we'd get the job of going out there and catching them, and us boys would haze them cattle, and my dad would get behind him, and he had a good horse, and he'd couple of jumps, and he'd be on top of them cattle and get a rope on them, jerk them down, and snub them to a tree and go get another one, and then come back in the evening and load them up in the truck and take them back to the farmer. That was a fun life.
Right, yeah, I bet it was. These kids just don't know what you guys, it ain't about money, is it, Bob?
Not at all.
I mean, did you ever have money? Did you ever worship money?
No.
But you always had it, didn't you?
We always had enough.
Yeah, you had
Good
enough.
Lord provided. I don't care where we was at. He provided.
That's what I tell people. The loneliest guy I ever met was a multimillionaire.
Yeah,
Just not enough,
Yeah.
But now, what brought the Cooks to White Cloud then? How many generations?
Well, that's funny you asked that because I did my genealogy. Along with me and my third cousin. We worked on this genealogy. I got back to 1560, Nottingham, England, to Francis Cook, and we run the bloodline all the way down to now, and to even to our grandkids.
Wow.
Started in 1560, and Francis Cook was my bloodline the farthest back, and he was the last surviving pilgrim on the Mayflower. So.
Say that again. He was what?
The last surviving pilgrim on the Mayflower in 1460 or 1560.
Really?
So, with that passed down through the lineage, I wanted to research it. I wanted to prove that. So, Mary and I, we spent a lot of time courthouses and different places getting documentation, and so we made an appointment to go to Massachusetts to the Mayflower Society to ask if we could get authenticated. And I had a meeting with two librarians there, historians, at 8 o'clock one morning, and they were kind of in a hurry to get us out of there. He said, well, we're going to just find you're not, in 5 generations, we're going to find that you're not a member, can't be a member, a bloodline member of them. So I said, okay. So they took my paperwork that I had, and I didn't have it any authenticated yet. I just had names and dates. And they said, well, we'll prove you wrong in 5 generations. So they got to the 5th generation, which was Roy Luke Cook, my 5th grandfather back. And they said, we don't have him. I said, well, do you listen to stories? And we hear so many, they said. Well, tell me. My dad told me that my great-great-grandfather was in the Civil War. He was captured and was in Virginia in prison in the war. And I told him about the military stories for him, and they got up and went back into that library, and they just got all kinds of history in there. And he come out with an envelope, and he said, I want you to go home and authenticate all your dates and names because I got his military records. He was a person. So that's what I did. I had to come back, and I went to every courthouse where you was born at, and I could buy the birth certificate, the marriage record, and the death record, and I had to have them authenticated with their stamps on them before I could present them to the Mayflower, before they would approve that we were ancestors of those people. So I got that done. It took several years.
I bet it did.
Yeah.
All this time you were working too.
Yeah.
You've always been self-employed.
Always been.
So you could do that. Of course, you got a wonderful wife. We all know her. So what generation came to Michigan then? Your grandfather?
My great-grandfather.
Great-grandfather. Holy Lord, 4 generations.
Yeah. And he ended up in Ensley Center.
Oh, yeah.
I got to tell you a story about my grandpa because to me it's important. It builds my strength.
Yep.
He was raised in Ensley, born in Ensley Center, and raised there as a boy. He had his mother, his father, and 3 siblings below him, and he was the oldest of the siblings. And my great-great-great-grandfather wanted to move out west, so he loaded everybody in a covered wagon, and my grandpa was 9 years old, and the siblings was lower. And they went to, and I don't know the exact destination they went, but that was either Missouri or Kansas, and they lived there for 3 years. And they built a sod house, and they lived in that sod house, and they lived there for 3 years. Well, they were starving out. Their grandpa told my dad that they were down to eating prickly pear and whatever, because it was really thin picking. And they decided to come back because my great-grandmother got ill. So on the way back, she passed away in Illinois, coming back to Michigan. And my granddad now was 11 years old, 11 or 12, pretty young. And his dad was laid in the back of the wagon sick. And he took care of his siblings, children, and took care of his dad, and buried his mother in Illinois. And he marked her grave with a big post, drove it way down in the ground, and left her there, and come back. And that was a struggle just to get back here, driving that team on a wagon. Had the same pair of mules that they went out with, that he come back with. And Grandpa told about when they got about 2 or 3 miles from Ensley Center, the mules recognized where they was at, and they brayed and took off running and run right back to the house.
Right.
So 30 years later, my great aunts and my great grandpa my grandpa went back to Illinois and exhumed my great grandmother and brought her back to Ensley Center and buried her.
Really?
Yeah.
What year would that have been? 18?
Oh yeah. I got it in my history. I can't give you the date.
No, but middle 1800s probably.
Well, he was born in 1880.
Okay.
89 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right so turn the century.
Yeah, right at the turn of the century. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
12 years old. How many 12-year-olds could run a team today? Huh? Not, I'm not trying to be
I know.
youth today, but I don't, the whole story about today is, Bob, why I brought you on here was you're part of the reason we are where we're at today. America was built on people like you.
Well,
and the history that you have is fantastic, that people should learn that maybe someday we go back to that. And it's hard to believe, but with all the stuff that's going on with the foreigners fighting us and this and that, we forget where we came from, and just so many stories out there. But now moving along, so you guys, they moved back to Ensley Center in the turn of the century, and then you guys resided up with your grandpa in White Cloud or with your dad?
My grandpa.
Grandpa
moved up there, and when he got growed, he come to bought a farm up here, a big farm. He had a lot of land.
Okay.
And that's where he started his horse racing and
yeah. So your dad, he was just a natural then, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, it was a gift to him. Everything we got was a gift.
Yeah.
Okay, and he was a survivor, and we didn't get babied none, I don't think. But I was the baby of the family at that time. But my brothers took good care of me too, so we learned a lot.
So you shod horses?
Just for myself.
Okay.
Just for myself.
Yep.
I never took a job out. I've been a blacksmith my whole life, but I didn't want to get into that because my back isn't built for that.
So, but it was for a clown.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you what, the clown's the toughest part of the rodeo. But anyway, so was there your brothers, everybody shod their own?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
See, that's a lost art, too.
Oh, yeah.
Brian Merrick, right to this day, is the only guy in this town that shoes horses.
I use him.
Yeah, I do, too. Yeah. Brian's a good young man. He's built for it, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's a good blacksmith, but it is a dying art, but he loves it. Oh, yeah. You have to have a passion. Of course, his dad was a horseman. His mother was, look back. But now, so then you went, you moved off the farm to where you're at now. What year was that in about?
Well, I got out of service in 66. I run wild for a year and married my wife in 67. And this is where I'm so proud of my dad. He was a good leader. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to get a house so my wife and I could get established. And I'd asked my dad, I said, you want to come look at a house with me and see if it's worth it? And where's it at? And I tell him, and he said, how many acres has it got? I said, maybe 2 or 3. He said, oh, no, I'm not going to go look at that. And I couldn't figure out why he would never go look at these houses, didn't have no acreage. And he said, well, you can't raise a cow, and you got a kid coming. You got to have a cow. and that's old. That's the old way.
Yep.
And so we found this old house, had 40 acres on it, and had an old barn, and the house was abandoned. The windows was broke out of it. Had one light bulb in each room, and it had a windmill and an outhouse. And Dad said, "You can afford that one. And when you get $1, take a board off and put a board on. Don't go in debt." And he taught me that.
Yeah, not to go in debt.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we got a beautiful home. We got lots of land. We've just been over-blessed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Over-blessed.
Yeah. I believe in that, not going in debt.
Yeah.
You know, an article in the Pioneer today about a local businessman that has had to close shop, and it was just, it's sad. But the key in the whole story was that he had no money to keep going. And I tell people that today, if you want to be successful, build your cash up first.
Yeah.
If you're going to start a business today, you better have cash and reserves. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. And there's a lot of different ways, and we won't go. That's a different day. But now so you established that place. Like I say, I've been there a couple of times. I just love it. You have a little museum in that barn, don't you?
Yeah.
Do you still have all that artifacts and all that stuff in there?
Yes, sir.
Do you ever take people out there and show them, Bob, like kids? Could you, like my kids are going to St. Mary's right now. They have small classes. Would they be welcomed out there to take a tour of your place? Because I think it would be wonderful. The history that these kids would learn in one day is more than they learn in the books for a year, I think.
Yeah. I got a lot of past history in there. Plus, I do blacksmith demonstrations, and then I have a rodeo museum too.
Well, by golly, I'm going to get that scheduled for the kids because they should see that stuff, you know. Yeah. Now, going back to your dad, so he had pulling horses.
Oh, yeah.
He had a lot of trophies for that, I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
How many horses, Bob, would he pull? Them ponies.
Oh, he had different teams, but lights and heavies, and we had mules too. He had a world champion pair of mules, or pulling mules.
Really?
And he had several awards for the top horse teams. And my little brother Nathan is right there behind my dad as far as trophies.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah. He's from Rothbury, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what year did you've been in the rodeo business for your life, pretty much.
Yeah.
But what year did you start your own business, and what made you think of going into welding like you have?
Oh, I didn't know it was going to be a business. I was a kid, and we had to make our own stuff. I made my own bow and arrows, and I made my own toys, like road carts and whatever. And we had a neighbor who had the job of keeping the telephones running. And we had them old insulators on the posts, and for some reason, he'd always had to come up them, change them insulators if they got broke. And he was in front of our house one day, and actually he was in front of our house several times changing them insulators. And he'd get a pair of spurs, and he'd climb up that pole, and I'd watch him, and I was only like 7, 8 years old. And I said, "Man, I want to climb them poles with you." He said, "Well, you got to have a set of these spurs to get up there first." And I said, "Well, good." I looked them all over. I'd be dogged if I didn't make a pair of them.
Out of steel, wrought iron?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how old?
I was young. I did a lot of welding when I was a kid, and my dad had an old welder there, and he let me go out there and tinker all the time. And sometimes I had to use coat hankers, didn't have welding rods.
Right.
But we made do with what we had, and one of my favorite things about what I got to make was a road cart. And, that was a good way to get around. You could drive a horse instead of riding them.
Right.
And I spent all summer building this road cart. And I didn't have no tools to speak about with that old welder and the torch. And I got to the point where I had to have a set of fills. And I didn't know how to bend them pipes. And so my dad helped me with that part, bending fills. And he seen I almost got it ready to go, and him and Mom had to go somewhere. And he said, "Now, whatever you do, don't hook it in that certain horse in the barnyard." And when he left, I said, "I wonder why he didn't want me to hook at that horse. That's probably a good one." Mm-hmm. And so I got around and got that horse caught up, and I pulled my road cart down the middle of the road, pointed it east and brung the horse down and backed him in them fills. And when I jumped in, the fills kind of picked up and the horse spooked and rolled me out the back, and he went up the road lickety-split. He took out 7 fence posts on my grandma's fence. The road cart, I found it in the neighbor's front yard, and the horse was back on my brother's farm with a harness hanging off the side of it. Dad come home and he seen all that, and I thought, well, I'm going to go to the woodshed on this one. Mm-hmm. And he said, you hooked it to the wrong horse, didn't you?
Oh, my Lord. Yeah. You know, it's amazing, though, your greatest educator was your dad, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
He's the one taught you everything you ever learned, eh?
Yeah, him and God.
Yeah. Well, I know you're a Christian. So what did, after that, your dad passed at what age?
He was 76.
Yeah. But tragic loss to you, eh?
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about family, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's all about family.
I mean, you look at your family. I know your son Tim real well and your daughter there. You got to be pretty proud of those two.
Oh, I am. I'm proud of all my kids. I got
I
kids.
know. How many you have?
3.
Okay. And then the other one's a daughter, too? 2 daughters?
No, 2 boys and a girl.
Oh. Who's your other son then?
Brad.
Well, where's he live?
North of town.
Okay. What's he do then?
He works for a big company. He's a salesman, a machine salesman.
Yeah.
And he's an engineer.
See, isn't that something? You didn't have to support any of them, did you?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
All just, I know, that's what I'm trying to get at with people.
Yeah.
You taught them how to make a living. You didn't teach them how to get a living.
No.
You taught them how to make it.
I'm kind of old school. Brad, he went to college. Brad was a different kind of a boy. He was really, really smart, and he knew he didn't want to beat iron.
Well, don't count yourself short here. You're a pretty smart man, too, don't you think, Bobby?
Well, anyway, Brad went on to college. Tim went to college, too, but he could have put that, aside. He went there for fun, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, they grew up in that blacksmith shop, and they learned how to work and how to do things and how to run business, and they're doing really good.
You don't mind talking about that a little bit? The reason I say that is because you got a good relationship with UPS. How did that come about, Bob? Because you're from White Cloud. UPS is a big company.
That's the God thing.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. The guy turned out to be a dear friend, but he was an engineer for UPS. And I had by this time, Mary and I had a little welding truck set up in a little welding shop.
Yeah.
Doing stuff for farmers and their loggers and stuff. And he give me a call and wanted me to come up to Big Rapids Center and do a little weld-up job. So I went up there and met him, and he showed me what he had done. So I got my fire extinguishers out and got all my safety stuff set up and fixed it for him. And he said, do you travel at all? And I said, yeah, I can some. What are you talking about? And he said, well, I got a deal in Cadillac I want done. And he said, we bought a building up there, and we got a bunch of old roller sections that that was cut out of another building, and we want them reconstructed and put back in this building and set back package cars into. So I took the job, and when we was all finished and I had plastic laid down underneath, and I was underneath spray painting and getting everything shiny, and there was 4 or 5 guys standing around with neckties on, all engineers for UPS, and they was watching me work. And they said, we like to have one company that we can really trust. And now this was 40 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. I'm getting old.
And
I can remember it.
And I took that job on, and right now we got trucks going everywhere in the state.
I know it. Got good people working for you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you have to.
We love them. We love them. They're good people.
Yeah. Well, your son ain't lazy. I know neither one of them are, but I know Tim real well. I see him come in the station early in the morning and late at night, and those guys are out on the road. But, yeah, that's been a good, but it's all about relationships, isn't it, Bob?
It is.
Just like the rodeo, it's all about relationships.
Yep.
That's how you're going to be successful. And then work ethic, you guys. Those engineers probably saw you as like, wow, this guy's a worker, and plus you're a good fabricator, weren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Or you still are, I know, and Tim is, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's your main, UPS is a big business for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah.
Go all over. I know you go up in the UP for them too, don't you?
We used to. We don't. It's too far. It took us 11 hours to get to the farthest center, and it was too expensive to do that.
Yeah.
For them,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's too far. It wasn't feasible for them.
Yeah. How did you, like when back in the day when you started up welding, so you just went to farmers and just found enough work? That was your main work?
No, it wasn't all my main work, because my dad had bought a garbage company.
Oh, that's right.
And I had a town job for a little while in the city, and I worked at night at the sewage plant, and so I had the whole day to work. And so he said, "Well, I'll give you a couple of accounts if you want to pick them up." And so he gave me a couple of accounts, and I had an old truck, and I went around and picked them a few stops up, and I did that for quite a little while, and then I ran his landfill for him, backfilled it for him, and one day he said he's going to retire, so I bought his company and went from there.
That's right. So you had
Cook's Refuse Service.
Yep. And then did you go in partnership with anybody then? How did you get rid of that?
We divided it up. It was so big that we was in like 3 counties. We was moving, and we divided it up between 2 different individuals, and they took the residential, and I kept the commercial and the industrial.
What did you get out of that for? And just wanted to go into something different, welding?
No, I was overwhelmed with work.
Yeah.
And that's doing a garbage business with a bunch of independent people. Collections is hard.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that's wrong with that, unless you can get organized. And I couldn't. I didn't have the skill to do that. But I was rodeoing too.
Okay.
And I could only get out a couple of states before I had to be back Monday to run that company's.
Okay.
And that welding shop too. So I had the welding shop going in the garbage company, and then I was rodeoing too.
Yeah.
And just lo and behold, again, it's another God thing. I was home, and a knock come on the door, and it was a salesman, a realtor. And he said, "You aren't interested in selling your business, are you?" And I said, "Yeah."
Yeah.
I didn't think about it. I said, "Yeah." Well, was a day or 2 or 3, Waste Management was there, wanted to buy it.
Wow.
So we haggled over that a little bit, and they ended up owning it, and that freed me up. I was just like, it took the weight of the world off of me. I didn't have any more pressure from business, and it freed me up, and I went rodeoing hard then.
Yeah. You know what's funny is we'll just talk on just for a second, but there's a lot of people from that area that got into that business, like Sam Ross, Enzing, and Kuzan, and remember Kramer?
Oh, yeah.
He was in it.
Yeah.
Wonder what happened to him.
He's the one that worked for Waste Management. He bought me out.
Oh, he's the one that bought you, because he lived on 13 Mile Road there, didn't he?
Yeah.
I remember him real well.
Yeah. He was a good operator.
Yeah. Yeah, he had the city back. Well, that's how they got the city, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Back when he was there.
Yeah.
A lot of history in that. But I think most of all, so like, if you were a teacher and got in front of the class, I ain't putting you on the spot here or nothing, but I know, I think of Fred Zimmerman as I'm talking to you, because you guys have so much history of Big Rapids in your family. It intrigues me, the story. But if you was to say to a young kid today, if you want to be successful, what would you say to him? Bob, what would there be hope for? I know that.
I got grandkids I worry about.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how to build a fire under them. First thing, if I was to have some authority, would to take the telephones away from them.
Yeah. I agree.
It's not fun to watch a grown man going to work, and he's on the job, and he's looking at his telephone, playing with his telephone games, and that just sours me.
Yeah.
You know, I was raised to ride for the brand, meaning that's cowboy language, but ride for the brand. If you go to work for a rancher, You ride for him. You work for him. You build his business with him because he's feeding you. He's taking care of you. You take care of him. And society doesn't do that anymore. They're sheltered by organizations.
Yeah. It's almost like the devil's working, isn't he?
Oh, I guarantee he is.
It is sad. Like, what do you think in our town right now? I know you know what's going on too with the diversity and the black-white thing. I mean, then the China's wanting to come over here and this and that's divided the town terrible. I mean, there's more against it than there is for it, but still, you know, you got to respect the ones that are for it. They have a reason for it, but I like our little town, and I've been cursed and been slandered about wanting to stay the same size. I do love growth, don't get me wrong, if it's good growth. But as far as tinkering with what they're tinkering with, it's just too big, isn't it? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I kind of promised myself I wouldn't get in any politics debates because you never win.
No, you don't.
And only way I can see the world turning, my only excuse for being able to keep going myself and not giving up is God's in control.
Yeah.
And Revelations, he's already told you what's going to happen. And he's already got the warning signs in all of past history. And so what prevails is what he's going to have happen. You know,
I agree.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid, are you?
Oh, no.
No?
Oh, no. I'm not. No. If I had any concern, it'd be for my grandchildren.
Me too.
All the little babies in the country who are not getting taught anything. These fathers make babies and leave the women. And just the world is full of young ladies out there with families trying to raise them and trying to be a dad and a mom and a breadwinner at the same time.
And then, you know, if you look back at it, where did it change? We got too easy, too complacent, didn't we, as America?
Yeah, we got greedy.
Yeah.
We got greedy.
Yeah.
We wanted more.
Yeah.
My wife, I made her stay home, and she got our kids raised and up. And then I said, now, if you want to go out and go to work, to occupy yourself. So she went up to the college, and she became a head cook up there, and all of her raising children made her a good cook, and so she fit in really good up there. But I didn't believe in letting my wife go out and get a job. I don't care what everybody else does. That's not my business. But I wanted my wife to raise our children. So, and she did a wonderful job.
Yeah, my wife did too, and we'll talk about our wives just for a second. Same thing with me. We had our first child born, and 3 months later he was in with jaundice at the hospital, and I didn't know what the hell jaundice was. And I sat there for 3 nights with him, never left the room. And he got out of there, and I went home, and I said, here's our baby, and you're staying home to raise him. So she quit her job. She worked for the doctor's office here in town. She quit her job. She raised all 3 of our kids, and to this day, I get compliments, as you do too, on your kids, how respectful they are, and people like them. Well, a lot to be said about a mom staying home. Now, I know there's a lot of can't stay home. They have to. But if you look at the way we're living today, these subdivisions are beautiful, but they cost money. These houses, astronomical money that they're spending to live where they live, and this and that. Like you said, you had one board at a time, and look where you're at. My favorite phrase is that you start with nothing, you'll probably end up with something.
Yeah.
But when you start with everything, you end up with.
Yeah, that's a sad state, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. But, you know, you got to believe in God, and it's going to be interesting to see what he holds in front of us, that's for sure. But, you know, I mean, if you look at our lives, we probably lived in the best days, we think anyway. I mean, I think my dad actually did. He had a great life and lived within his means and enjoyed life every day, never lost a friend in his life. I've lost friends in town here that I thought we'd be friends forever, you know, but now because of a disagreement, like you say, stay out of the politics. I've tried, but I'm not going to lay down either, you know.
Yeah, well, you don't have to lay down.
No.
But you don't let nobody waller you in it either.
No, I never curse anybody for having difference of opinion. No, never. But sure do me sometimes, you know, they like to do that. But getting back to your life, now that you're retired, what have you been doing for the last 5 so years?
Well, I run into a little trouble. I got stage 4 cancer one time, and I had that really bad. I had a tumor inside me about the size of a football, and they couldn't take it out, so they had to take it out with chemo and whatever. And I got over that, and then I got another stage 4 cancer, and that set me back a little bit. With all the wrecks that I was in the rodeo, all the pains and stuff I went through there, I'm pretty good shape for my age.
You are. You look great. And I remember when you had a heart attack, how many years ago?
Oh, that was minor.
I know, but I remember you walking by the station every morning. You must have walked 3 or 4 miles every morning, didn't you?
I did. I'd take a loop.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah.
You were walking. But then you survived that, and then, like you said, you're a 2-time cancer survivor.
Yeah.
What got through? How did you think you got through it, Bob? Again, was it God, your faith?
I never was scared of diving. Never. And I didn't die. But my wife always said I did, but I didn't die. But I wasn't never scared. God's in control.
Yeah.
And I have to look at it that way. I've been so blessed and all the great things I've got to accomplish, and it was all through him. He was my power.
Yeah, sure. But one thing it goes by fast, doesn't it?
Oh boy.
I mean, we got to smile how lucky we are, and I know we're running out of time. Bob's probably sitting there going, Bob's shaking his head. Go on. But it is all about God. Don't you feel bad for people that don't believe in God?
Oh, heavens.
And you've run across them times you've been around.
Yeah. I pray for those lost souls.
Yeah. So, I'm getting wrapped up here, Bob. You got any questions for Bob? There are 2 Bobs
it's
here.
just fascinating to hear your story, Bob, and we're really happy that you came in and shared it with us, because this is what it's all about: is knowing what our history is and how we can use that to improve the future.
Well, it's amazing in modern era that we have a real cowboy here, first of all.
Yeah.
And then to get elected to the Hall of Fame. Did they send you a letter on that, Bob? Somebody call you, or did your wife tell you, or how'd you find out when you got to the Hall of Fame?
Well, that's due through a nomination. I mean, I had nothing to do with that. Just my 30 years or whatever of my history of working. That's how they come up with that. And they got people in there that can decipher who's warranty in that. And if I dare brag about it.
No, I want you to. You're not bragging.
I'm the only person that won a national finals, a world record in Michigan in rodeo. And I'm the only one to ever be put on the Hall of Fame in rodeo.
Really? Now that is an accomplishment. That's what I'm saying.
In Michigan.
Right, I know, but there's been a lot of you. There's rodeos every weekend. There's clowns out there every weekend and stuff. But it must have been your first thought, though, when you heard that. I bet you cried, didn't you?
I was ashamed.
Really?
Yeah, I was scared. I said, I don't know if I'm worthy of this.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
So you're a humbling guy then?
Well, I was worried. In fact, I was fighting it to go. My family wanted me to go, and they was so happy for me.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of was dragging my feet, and finally we went. And when I was there, one of my good friends who was doing good in this world, he's helping a lot of people, and he wrote me a note, and he said, you are where you're supposed to be, where God put you. So that kind of relaxed me, and I went ahead and went through the ceremony, and now I carry it with pride.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I bet you cried, though, didn't you, down there a little bit?
Well, yeah.
It's a chilling experience. I'm getting chills thinking, because not everybody can be in the NFL Pro Bowl, or not everybody can be in the Hall of Fame of their sport.
No.
Very few of us ever.
Yeah, well, again, I was just blessed, and it was pretty settling to watch the audience and all those guys that I used to work with or work for in the committees, and to do people who have accomplished tasks in their world, and that they let me be in there with them, and so.
Yeah, I bet they all shook your hand, patted you on the back, and God, you wish you could have stopped time for a little bit, eh?
Yeah, really, yeah. It was too much, too fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't fast. It was 30 years, you know.
Yeah. You know what the biggest compliment is, though? Your whole family went, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a compliment to you and your wife right there, what kind of people you've raised.
Well, I raised my children in a motorhome, too. I mean, we was on the road a lot.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And we took them right out of school to go to Mexico to work.
Really?
And we self-taught them for a while. And yeah, so my kids seen the world.
Isn't that something?
That's amazing, you know?
Yeah, it is.
Get homeschooled and, you know, so... And see the world. I mean, that's something exciting for a kid. I mean, a lot of kids can never say that.
Yeah, Bayshaw's, I think, did that too. Old Red Balmick took his family out west, I remember.
Oh, yeah.
But most of the time, it relates back to horses, though, doesn't it?
It's all livestock.
Yeah.
It was in our blood, you know. And most of the pro cowboys, they grew that way too. I mean, there's some young guys that's coming in that's just really good athletes, and they want to try it. But the old salts, the guys that are born in it, they're tough, and they just keep bouncing back. And them are the ones that are fun to work with because they got the smarts.
I see that. I get the cowboy quotes on my Facebook there. It'll pop up. That's one thing I like about Facebook, the quotes. And the cowboy quotes are probably the most religious, down-to-earth quotes that people say. Of everyone. It's just amazing that if you see a horseman, you'll see a real American, really, the old American. And it still goes on today.
That's one thing I'm really proud about in rodeo. We have a grand entry, and we present the flag.
Yeah.
And we have we do the Pledge of Allegiance, we sing the national anthem, and we have a prayer before every rodeo.
Wow.
And I watch. No, I'm not knocking football or baseball, but there's very little attention given to God, and
I know it.
And the money is huge in those places. And
I know it.
These cowboys are. I can remember the first ball player that made $1 million in baseball, and he come to Chicago Amphitheater, and I was working there, and he wanted to do an act. And for the intermission to have the kids come out there, so he said, "I want you to get a catcher's mitt." And he said, "I'm going to throw you some real soft balls, and you play catcher for me." And I said, "Okay." Well, then he said, "Can you make an act out of it?" So I said, "Yeah, I'll put a smoke bomb in my glove, and the last one you're going to throw a speedball, and I'll pop the glove, and it'll blow up smoke." And, well, I got that all set, ready to go, and there was 1,000 kids swarming around me, wanting to get out there with that ball player. And one of them bumped my switch. Blew my act right in.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, screwed you on that one,
Oh, boy.
Yeah, but it still went good, you know.
Yeah.
But that was $1 million. In rodeo, we had never heard of that.
No.
But now we got $1 million rodeos.
Right.
Television did that for us.
Yeah. Where's the best cowboys come out of? What state would you say? What? They're all over, huh?
It's the individual.
Yeah.
The North and the South, that doesn't make any difference anymore. But boys who grew up far away from town, they're the most best, you know.
Yeah.
So
did your boys get into riding at all?
Tim fought bulls for a little while. Brad, he worked with me in the clown. We did stage work and stuff.
Okay.
At the big rodeos, and Brad did that. Lori, she cooked and took care of the animal acts for me, and so.
I see, there's a few people around here, like Mike Manicke. He's got the rodeo steers. And Chuck Rogers used to have them up there in Hawkins.
Yeah.
Those guys have pretty good steers, eh? Bunking bulls.
Yeah. That's where you learn that.
Yeah. Yeah. And Johnson's, I think they have a big rodeo, and the Engstrom boy, Shane, is in there. So it's not a lost art, is it? It's still going pretty strong.
It's still going, yeah.
But it's getting smaller, you think, eh?
Well, the cowboys are thinning out. Back in the 80s, they come through, the cowboys come through and they wanted to organize, not the clowns wanted to come through and organize. Cowboys belong to an association. They have to work for their money by competing. We get hired to do the work. And my job, there's 3 positions in my job. You can either be a bullfighter, or you can be a barrelman, or you can do axe. And when I started out, I wanted to do all 3 so that when I went to an area, I wasn't singling myself out because I didn't have enough material. And so I did all 3 acts, and I fought both in my younger years. And when you get older, you lose your reflexes, and you can't take the pain like you used to, and so you go to the barrel. And so that's what I did.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's 10 to 10. It's about the longest program we've had in a long time. And I want you folks, I hope you've enjoyed today's program. Before I leave, I'm going to have Bob, I want to quote from him what's going on in the world today, or what you want to say to young people today, how to be successful, or whatever you want to say. But I do have a song that being Thanksgiving and everything, or Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day tomorrow. My God, my mind goes to hell on me fast. Valentine's Day's tomorrow, right, Bob?
Yeah, tomorrow.
So I got Wednesday, a song.
Ash Wednesday, we got to think about that.
Yeah, Ash Wednesday.
Fish fries coming up on, St. Mary's, I guess, right? Fish
fry
coming up on Friday, so, yeah.
Yep. That's right. Thanks, Bob, for reminding me of that. I'm a Catholic.
But I had to remind you. Wow.
I know it. Well, I've been intrigued about Bob's story here, and I trained of thought. But I want everybody to know I got a song coming up here, and it's from all the husbands in the area to their wife. So if you're near your wife when the song comes on, look at her and say, "This is from me, honey." But anyway, Bob, what do you think? You got to
tell me what song it is because I don't know.
Oh, Lady in Red.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Robert DeBerg sings it. Lady in Red. But anyway, who you got there for that? Yep. Anyway, Bob, what do you think? You've enjoyed today, I hope?
Oh, yeah, this has been good.
Any other stories?
Not really.
No. We can always have you back on if you think of more. Come back on. It don't have to be as long, or it doesn't have to be short either. But I love stories, and Fred's gone, so I can't get any more out of him. I would have liked to talk more about Woodville, how it evolved to where it is today. We'll do that on another day in White Cloud. But as far as you being an educator to the kids today, what would you say to them?
Well, guaranteed they're going to grow up, and guaranteed they're going to have to make a living somehow. Yeah. So collect your work ethics, and just remember, ride for the brand. Take care of your job.
Yeah.
Do your job.
Yep. Ride for the brand. It's a good one, isn't it, Bob?
It is.
All right, Bobby.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bob.
Our sponsors, including DW2.
Oh, yeah.
Drywall, of course, Gilbert's Carpets Plus Color Tile. Also, Big Rapids Pennzoil and Auto Repair.
Yeah.
Zach Mann,
Ken Wells and Zach. Yeah.
And let's see who else we have.
DW2 Drywall. Did you say that?
Yep, said that
911.
Yeah, 911.
Joe at Restoration. Yeah.
And of course, Seth Winger.
Baker Auto.
Since pretty much the beginning here.
Yep, Seth Winger,
And Benton Baker, we want to thank them too. So
Baker Auto.
You got it. Baker Auto.
Yeah. There. Yeah. And DeJean out there and all them guys out there. Yeah, appreciate it. Well, it's been a good show, Bob. Appreciate you coming in, and God bless you. And we'll see you next time. Yeah,
well, we were going to do tomorrow, but I'm having a little oral surgery today.
We'll be praying for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so tomorrow we will not have the sports show, but we'll be back next week.
Yep. Sounds good, Bob.
B1039. Nice.
Hey, Bob. Yeah, I haven't left yet.
You haven't.
I had to find my hat.
That was quite an interview. That was very nice.
Yeah, Bob, he's great. Great guy. Just great God-giving guy to the community, and done a lot of great things for a lot of people that we don't even know about.
Right.
But anyway, tomorrow night, Peaks, south of town, it used to be CK's place.
Okay, yep.
Hunty family bought that, and it's called the Peaks.
Yep.
They're having a 6 to 8 2-hour program down there with dinner, Italian dinner, and they're going to have a little 2-piece band there.
Nice.
Just a little entertainment. Take your wife out. Tickets are on sale right now, but you got to hurry up and get them in today. They don't want a bunch of people showing up tomorrow night and wanting dinner. So it's online, the Peaks, right here in Big Rapids. hope to see you there tomorrow night. I'm taking my lovely bride out there for Valentine's.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to have a nice event center. I mean, we had the Holiday Inn and that closed, so we don't have that anymore. So it's good that they took that over and did some renovation, I understand.
A lot,
so,
yeah. It looks really nice. They have pictures online.
Well, if they ever need a DJ,
see.
always call me,
I'll have to tell them that, yeah. I think the Hunties are investing a lot of time and money into this community, so if you see them, thank them, because it takes local people to make local things happen, and Hunties are a great family doing that. But anyway, then, like I say, you said Ash Wednesday, and then after they're on out, there's going to be a lot of fish fries. St. Mary's puts one on every Friday night at the Perry Center.
Right.
Other than that, the Eagles always have one. The Elks have one. Oh, Mosey Inn, they all have it. Yeah. Hawkins Bar has great fish. So quite a group of people out there cooking fish for this Lenten season. But remember what Lenten's is all about, too, right?
The sacrifice and,
Yeah.
remembering the season. Of course, you got the Putchkis today, so go over to Jack's. That's where he supplied the Putchkis for this morning. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what that's all about. Fasting.
It's using the fat that was in the house. The funny thing is, when I came in New York, where I came from, it was a very big Polish community. I mean, we were probably 50-60% Polish in the town where I grew up, and I never heard of Putchkis.
Really?
And I asked a dear friend of mine, she does the polka show on the local radio station there, and she says, it was only on Fat Tuesday, and it was only in the morning because the people who knew, you know, and they only did a limited run, so we weren't there every day. We didn't go to the Polish deli or the Polish bakery every day, but so they had them. They didn't have them quite like they have them here, where they have them. You get them a month in advance. Or today, where you get them at Jack's. So so enjoy those, and then tomorrow,
Yeah. Well, we got one more song as I leave. I don't know. It's sad when somebody dies is when all these things you hear how great a human they were, and that Toby Keith. Definitely did so much. I know he went and took care of the service people, and he donated tons of money to the needy, and just what a cowboy, and these songs that he wrote and everything. And like I say, Don't Let the Old Man In, that's my favorite. But this song we're going to leave you with, folks.
We
here
played all of them except this one. This is the one that gets the most emotion. So
you got to play this one, Bob, because it sums up Toby Keith in America.
On WBZX Big Rapids.
God bless America.